Hey everybody, welcome to the Heat Press for Profit podcast. I'm your host today, Josh Ellsworth. I'm excited to be back on the show and hosting today while our normal hosts are traveling out to different conferences and events around the industry. And we have an exciting show for you today. So if you're just logging in, whether that's through YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you're watching, make sure you shout out to me, say hello, tell me who you are, where you're watching from. Or if you're watching it or listening to it afterwards, make sure you like and subscribe to wherever you're listening to the podcast. And so today's show is all about print on demand, a very important topic in our industry right now as we think about producing only what we need, exactly when we need it, at the quantity that we need it, and getting it to the customer on time, just a smarter way to go about the business. And so there's been this whole shift to print on demand over really the past decade, maybe more, but that is accelerating right now. And so from a Stahls standpoint, we've made some big decisions in print on demand. And one of those decisions was to make an investment into a technology company called Fulfill Engine. And I'm so happy to have Jayson Tompkins, one of the co-founders of Fulfill Engine, on the show today, as we have a discussion around market observations and print on demand opportunities, and really introducing you to Jayson and the company. And so let's go ahead and bring Jayson on. Hey, Jayson, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we have folks watching from all over the world, really, or listening from all over the world. And we hope to give an outlook for print on demand, kind of where we're at today. With print on demand, what that means, what the opportunities are for folks in the market, whether it's small businesses or big businesses, how they should be thinking on print on demand. And hopefully we're real practical here, give some advice on something they can take home, actionable, and implement today after the conversation. But before we get all deep into all of that topic, it's a big topic. Why don't you tell those folks listening, since they may be meeting you virtually for the first time, kind of your story, who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, so from Charleston, South Carolina, 80 degrees today. It's beautiful outside. The Gators are out on the golf course. It's awesome here. My family had a small print shop. We did paper printing, and we had no idea what we were doing when it came to running a business. And so what we realized is competing against Vistaprint was going to be really tough. And we got introduced to apparel printing thanks to none other than Stahls. Went to a conference, saw these beautiful shiny heat presses, and realized that all we needed to do was buy a heat press so we could start making t-shirts. So that's how we got our start in the apparel industry. And then through some relationships with nonprofits, we realized there was really a gap for servicing nonprofits with apparel and running fundraisers. And so I recruited a couple of my really good friends, awesome, talented engineers, Adam Hickey and John Bell, and we started to write our first application, really trying to power nonprofits. And so that was about in 2018 when we first launched Print Your Cause. And from there, we realized that software in our industry just wasn't anything out there to connect the actual orders we were pulling in to actually doing the fulfillment. And so instead of trying to scale our company via people, via equipment, we did have to do that, but we really focused on the software. And when COVID hit, we made a big pivot to start doing more e-commerce fulfillment. More fulfillment for marketplaces, fulfillment for other, applications and larger enterprise companies. And instead of trying to grow our own fulfillment, we realized we wanted to work with partners. And so that was when we started to really develop the system that not only manages different order channels, but it also manages the orders on the production. And we worked with great partners. Our very first one is US Colorworks in Charlotte. Ton of credit to those guys. We built our software for our own needs. And so a couple of years ago, we realized the software we built was more valuable than the company we had built it for. And through our own experience, realized that we could bring all of what we had learned, what we had built, to empower other people, to empower sellers, suppliers, decorators, really everyone in the supply chain to partner with. And that's how really Fulfill Engine came to be. And now can't say how happy I am that we've got this awesome marriage with Stahls.
Yeah. And so we are so excited. When I first met Jayson and heard his founder story, I won't go too deep into it because it was actually over dinner and there was some live trivia going on. So it was like a 2-hour story that he just condensed into 2 minutes for you all. So consider that fortunate. But I was super excited because this was a company that had walked in the shoes of a typical apparel decoration entrepreneur and experienced all of the difficulty and thought through a lot of the challenges with scaling and growing and getting to what everybody really aspires to get to. And that's what they would deem success in their apparel decoration business. And so when I saw Jayson software and what he developed, I'm like, oh, wow, we need to make this accessible to anybody who wants to print apparel, but specifically to print apparel on demand, because that's really what the software was rooted in. But this isn't a sales presentation on the software. We're going to get into that maybe a little bit later and talk about the importance of technology to making all this work. But let's start with, I think, something all apparel decorators can attach to is the print technology and what we really need to be thinking about when we look at how to actually print a shirt for print on demand and what technology sets we feel like are eligible to be able to do print on demand, which effectively means we have to be ready to print as little as one piece to be able to really power print on demand. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're spending the cost to set up a job on a bulk order, it's okay to touch that order with a human, right? To set up the job, to set up the artwork, to order the blanks, right? To put it in your CRM or your system, right? If you're doing that on quantities of one, that's got to be automated. It's got to be efficient. There can't be all those touch points. Otherwise, you're going to be losing money. It may feel like you're making money. You won't be, because you'll be spending so much time, or your team will be spending so much time on that order.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the technologies that were really available to power the printing of the garment itself historically was direct to garment, which still holds a pretty prevalent place in the print on demand space.
Yeah.
I would say dye sublimation, which does a nice job. I'd probably add engraving to that mix for hard goods.
Yeah, okay. That's what's been really neat about the last couple of years, honestly. 5-6 years ago, it was DTG, it was dye sublimation. Like, that was it, right? And the evolution of what we've been able to bring with the software and with really the technology that's out there, like direct to film, or empowering decorators to be able to do embroidery on demand or engraving. Both of those techniques were traditionally things it was unheard of to do quantities of one. And with the with direct to film, with DTG, with dye sublimation, we've seen all the value of being able to do on demand. And with technology, with process, with flow, you can have embroidery done on demand and be really successful and really profitable with that, as well as other heat applied graphics that we've seen come along. It's really changing the game in terms of the variety of print techniques that are available, the variety of different apparel or hard goods that can be decorated on demand has really evolved, quite quickly over the last few years.
Yeah, and I think that you'd have to be under a rock, I believe, and those folks listening probably aren't. They're tuned into our show weekly to not understand the impact and the disruption of direct to film. So I don't necessarily want to catalog all that because that's spoken about pretty much on everything I listen to inside of our industry. So I don't want to be redundant there. But when you look at, kind of where we're at with direct to film, direct to garment, and dye sub, kind of is the key three with embroidery, kind of docking that as a unique technique. Like, what do you think are some of the things we're missing when we look out across direct to film or those print technologies? Like, are there any gaps we need to close with the technology? Things from like a true print technology that may be holding sellers back to achieving their sales goals and really maximizing the opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's all about the systems on the front end that are actually collecting the orders, right? If you don't have a system that essentially is hooked up to the fulfillment and you don't have the recipe for that production ready to go, and you're taking orders in and then you're having to by hand set up those print technologies, then that's an issue. And that's where DTG and dye sublimation, they shined early on because it was so easy to just upload a PNG, right? It's a digital process. And so there was never any touching of the artwork, right? Whereas with engraving, with embroidery, even with direct to film, there's got to be some technology along the way that's getting those jobs all set up. But as we all know, there's a lot more than just taking an image and an order and then magically like getting it to that printer. There's a bunch of steps in between. Like, what are we going to do with the inventory management? How are we going to get the blanks? What are the blanks we're going to support? And I think that's where technology and workflow really comes into play for decorators large and small for how they're going to do their fulfillment.
Yeah. And like there's nuances to almost every one of those print techniques. Yeah. And really, I think that's why there's the excitement around direct to film is like there's less restrictions really, because with DTG, like we were a little bit restricted as far as like what fabrics we could go to. And there's some complexity with navigating even garment weights and treatments within those fabrics, right? With the pre-treat process and how that would work. And sublimation, we know there's a very limited set of products, certainly in soft goods and apparel that we can decorate with it, but hard goods, you know, there's lots of opportunity there. And so when you think of that, like landscape, if I'm a decorator and I want to do it all myself, which is, I think, debatable as we move forward, and we can have that conversation around trends and our point of view. But if I want to do it all myself, like, do I need to own DTG, dye sub, and direct to film to really be able to maximize my potential? Or what are your thoughts on that mix?
Had you asked me that 4 years ago, I'd have said, yeah, DTG is definitely what to invest into. Dye sub, if you have the market, if you have the sales channels, then yeah, maybe you could get into dye sub on some like hard goods, probably not on soft, you know, like on apparel. And it's just incredible the quality that, you know, Stahls is able to output with direct to film, and just the diversity of what you're able to decorate on with it versus dealing with the headaches that you get with DTG. I mean, I get PTSD talking about and thinking about, oh, did this shirt come from, was it made in Nicaragua or was it made in Haiti? Because the way the inks are blended with water, when you get pre-treat, it stains the garment. And it's like, we're talking about down to that level of what country it was made in, if you can DTG on something, let alone actually looking at the style and like looking at the fabric contents, all of those different things. And just because of that process, and same with dye sub, because you're actually, you know, impacting the way you're dyeing that garment, whereas direct to film, the ease of being able to decorate with it, the time it takes, you know, DTG, you've got to pre-treat, you've got to do so many steps, right? Mm-hmm. Multi-step process. And the equipment is really expensive to invest into. So that, you know, initial investment that you have to make into those printing techniques, you know, can be drastically different. And with direct to film, all you need is a heat press.
Yeah. And I think, you know, usually what I find in talking with decorators, like their fear around all the, and trust me, I'm the biggest advocate for all you need is a heat press. Everybody listening that knows me knows that. But let me present the other side of it, just so we can talk through it, because you have a unique insights based on what you're able to see coming through the platform that's been doing print on demand for whatever the last 4 years. Most people say, well, with the Amazon effect, is there enough time for me to actually go out, buy a transfer, not have to own the printer, receive the garments, decorate the goods? Like, do I need to inventory of garments? Do I need to own the printer? Like, what are you seeing from like a respectable turn time in the industry for the opportunities? How should we think about how quick we need to ship from when we receive the order?
Yeah, I think it's completely reasonable. And I think the industry as a whole, 5 days, you know, is a completely reasonable turnaround time. And the cool thing with great supplier partners out there, like the Sanmar and Alpha Broders and S&S's and Augusta and Scrub Authorities, the list goes on and on. There's so many great suppliers out there because they're diversified distribution channels and centers that they have. It's like we can get most of our stuff within 1 day, right? Mm-hmm. And so knowing that we can get our blanks in 1 to 2 days, knowing we can get our transfers in 1 to 2 days, well, great. That gives us 3 full days to do the production, plenty of time, you know, to be able to get that order out the door and have very happy customers.
Yeah. So basically in print on demand, one note for everybody is you are really selling virtual inventory, right? You're not making anything. You're not photographing pre-printed garments and inventorying those designs and listing them for sale. You are not even stocking the garments that you want to sell. You are finding your wholesale suppliers, making sure you're building stores or quotes or however you're transacting, with the catalog that you have access to, and then basically only ordering the garment, only buying the transfer or producing the thing when you have the sale. That's the definition of printing it on demand exactly after you receive the money and are paid for it. And so some of the benefits of that businesses should get excited about is one, less on-shelf inventory, less space and inventory carrying cost and burden there with overhead. But two, being able to have this huge product assortment of this diversified partner catalog, supplier catalogs, where I can effectively sell thousands of SKUs and thousands of items, lots of different brands. But to your point, sourcing that stuff like is tough, right? I listened to a bunch of different industry podcasts, and I know there's been a solution created recently to go out and source that stuff for people, right? Where you can basically log on to a website, you can enter your blank accounts from the big three or other suppliers, and you can basically go to one place to check inventory instead of going to three websites, right? Saving a lot of time for the business owner. So, but I think there's a progression of that. So share with the audience how you've thought about sourcing through online stores and through like sales in general.
Yeah, we've always taken the approach that we want the end customer to not realize, the person who's buying, they don't need to realize that this is print on demand, right? So by hooking in to all the different suppliers and knowing exactly where every garment is here in the US and knowing what is available in inventory and really passing that through all of our partnerships that we have in the integrations, well, great. Now when someone's coming to a store and if a specific Travis Matthew polo is out of stock in a certain size and color, well, great. We can flag that and make sure that that customer is not getting a bad experience ordering something that then who knows when it's going to be restocked. But the management of that is a nightmare if you don't have automation and you have someone manually going in and updating SKUs. Because you had mentioned thousands of SKUs. The reality is it's hundreds of thousands of SKUs across all these different styles and colors and sizes. And so having automation power whatever the front end solutions are, whether it's a store, on our platform or a third party platform or Shopify, whatever it might be, having that experience can really give you the confidence to add as many styles as you want to a store or offer to your clients and not have to worry about that back and forth of, oh no, this is out of stock, let me help you with a different product. And then actually sourcing those blanks that you need for those orders as they're coming in. I can speak from experience, right? On a lot of these things, I did them myself. So early on in our company, it was me every single day, logging on, drinking a cup of coffee and doing ordering. And it was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, right? Like I hate even talking about it. Yeah. And that's where automation for us, we were able to build all of these integrations with the major suppliers and take that work off our plate. So not only did we save a significant amount of time for ourselves, we saved the space of not carrying inventory. We give our customers way more SKUs and styles than they could ever imagine. And they're getting a great experience when they're going and buying things because we're only exposing what's available.
Yeah, I love that. And so thinking about that, you can have the confidence that you're not going to sell into a back order where you can't chase something down, where you're going to have that customer friction, but also you can have the flexibility to try stuff. And I think Absolutely. That's part of the industry, right? Is you want a risk-free way, or not completely risk-free, but a lower risk way to be able to put something out in the market for a potential client type, and maybe they'll buy, maybe they won't, but you want to be able to have some misses on that without having the pre-printed inventory or even the blank inventory sitting behind it. And so one interesting observation that I want to share is like there's this concept of printing only what you need exactly when you need it, and sourcing it only exactly when you need it. But we've heard from other decorators that at some point, like if this is a known thing, like, hey, the client is Coca-Cola and we know they're going to buy X amount of the Coca-Cola logo on front of the t-shirt. Like there's a couple ways we can go about that. We can either get that screen printed, put it in inventory so it's pick, pack, ship, right? Or what I've seen more often than not is we can stock that logo in a screen printed transfer. And so thinking about the benefits of even stocking transfers and managing that and only committing that transfer to size, color, item whenever it's sold leaves a ton of flexibility and reduces the risk. Because that transfer, that white Coca-Cola logo, will still be good, on let's say on the back of a jacket tomorrow versus the front of a t-shirt today. Right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a fantastic model for programs for any type of volume that you can expect, and that is coming in regularly. And like you said, you still get the diversity of print on demand. You're not taking an inventory position, right? You're not having to pre-decorate thousands of the same thing, hoping that you sell them. No, you still get that same awesome workflow and experience for the end customer. But now, you're able to do a printing technique that takes, 7 seconds to do, all while offering that great front end experience and that great shopping experience. That's kind of the dream.
Yeah. And just for those, listening, you won't be able to see this, but I'll explain it to you. For those watching, like I did a customer visit last week, and you guys will see video content coming out on this, but here's his little cow logo, right? And it's a really cool brand, Cash Cow Clothing, right? Streetwear brand. And this is like one of his major 3 or 4 logos, right? And so we made this for him in a PVC patch, 25 piece minimum. Like we'd never be able to do this just one and make to order. But if this is a major part of his brand or the brand that the store is for, we could throw 25, 50 of these on the shelf. And at this size, which is about 2¼ inches tall, it's going to be good for a hat. It's going to be good for a backpack. It's going to be good for a left chest logo. It's going to be good for a can cooler. Like you can have all sorts of virtual inventory illustrating this, and then just pick and press when you sell the item. Good. So we're probably about 2/3 of the way through our podcast. Time flies when you're having fun here, but we appreciate everybody logging in and listening. I know we have McKinnon Printing watching and joining us on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. We have, looks like it's Recreated Designs. Thanks for watching us on our YouTube channel. We have our great friends over at Stahls UK watching as well. Hope you guys are having a great day and heading into a great weekend here. And then, of course, our folks at Transfer Express and Stahls TV. We're broadcasting everywhere. So shout out. This is an interactive show, so we have lots more we want to share. But your questions are like way cooler with like guiding the rest of our time together versus us just stating it out. Oh, and one of my guys is online today, Frank Good. What's up, Frank, from SNS Activewear, watching us on LinkedIn. And then 206 Fresh City. Appreciate you joining us. So great. We have a question coming in, so I'm going to pop it on the screen as I read it to the audience. Sullen asks, do you see the industry, retail, or customer end price increasing and being accepted across the industry? Love the fulfill engine model, but the cost to us, the store, is quite higher than we are seeing with contract printing. So there's a lot to unpack in that question. Jayson, you understand it? Want to take first crack at it?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing more and more are the big sellers, the big kind of those clients that you would think in the past, like we'll just use Walmart, for example. Like everyone just assumes Walmart is decorating in bulk and they're stocking things and it's all inventory based. But you even have your big retail brands and stores, department stores that in the past only did big runs and distributed amongst all of their facilities. Even like a Walmart is moving to print on demand. And that's really the exciting thing about the print technology combined with software and automation can actually get those print costs down to where it is getting closer and closer to what screen printing costs. Now, that's not to say screen printing is ever going to go away. If you're doing 10,000 units of a one color, yeah, screen printing's money all day for that, right? And there are going to be cases where it absolutely makes sense to continue to do screen printing. But I think with what we're seeing in the industry in general is that taking the risk for some of these retail brands or e-commerce brands, taking that initial inventory position of guessing if this design is going to be successful is starting to outweigh like the benefits in terms of what you could end up getting by going pure on demand.
Yeah, and I think you have to also kind of dock it to the trends we're seeing in advertising, like a customer acquisition. And so we know the trend is, I think it's 73 cents or 83 cents out of every dollar spent on digital advertising versus traditional print media. And a large percentage of that, of course, is where you would expect it in Meta, in paid search, et cetera. And that can be targeted to a very specific demographic, to a customer, at a quantity of one. And so you're seeing like just business model shifts that are being enabled by print on demand. So it's never going to replace, printing all the employee shirts. Screen printing has a place. Nobody's predicting the death of screen printing here. Actually, quite the opposite. I think as branded merchandise can grow with a nice tandem of print on demand technology coupled with bulk technology like bulk embroidery, bulk screen printing, and we can add some more to that list. But that's a great question. I don't think you'll ever see price parity with bulk run screen printing, but you'll see, I think, higher perceived value, especially if you're in an e-commerce store format where they're transacting more like a consumer rather than a bulk buyer, and able to have those advantages of choice with Stahls and getting exactly what they want and not being like everybody else.
I think that's the key there. What you're saying, Josh, is that the choice on the e-com side is that you can have all these different options. You can have the pre-decorated in inventory. You can have the screen print transfers ready to go across a large variety of SKUs. And then you also have other printing techniques that, are truly on demand, just in time.
Yeah, great. So we have a fantastic question. First shout out to Dolores. Thanks for watching. And then Mary from watching in Fort Worth, place I love to travel to. Unfortunately, it doesn't say the name of who asked this, but I love the question. So someone on LinkedIn asks, how do you think about accelerating trust of print on demand? So let's first focus on like that insinuates that there's a lack of trust in print on demand. Let's talk about kind of where that's come from historically, and then what can we do about it?
Yeah, I think there has always been a little unease when it comes to, say, like DTG especially. Everyone wants to offer, or people who are doing POD early on, the focus was DTG, right? And so I think a lot of decorators who were doing DTG were trying to push the boundaries on the type of styles and the type of shirts that you could do it on. But as we've already kind of discussed, there's a limited number of styles that really where DTG looks really great. Mm-hmm. And then you have certain designs and colors where it just doesn't look as good as, or maybe it doesn't last the wash tests and it doesn't hold up like a traditional screen print, right? And that's where I think direct to film really is earning back the trust that, hey, this print technique actually can last as many washes as a screen print, right? And so a technique like screen printing where, it's been done for so long, right? Like thousands of years, right? Screen printing has been around, okay? So like this is very new. And so like how do we earn, like you said, it's a great question, dude. I think direct to film is doing a pretty incredible job of that. As the technology on the printing side gets better and better, the gap is going to continue to close, if not completely close already.
Yeah, and I'll add another thought. Like my perception of it is that DTG moved pretty quickly in the print on demand space to commoditization. I can't even say that right. To becoming a commodity. How do I say it that way? Tongue twister. And because it was a race to the bottom, and because of some perceived quality issues and some people who accelerated those quality issues where they were real, but it's tough to like create unique value on DTG. Like you can do it through speed and price.
That's right.
The quality of DTG is kind of like the quality of DTG, and I know there's nuances, but from a consumer point of view, most of the stuff I've seen, a large assortment of it is like, hey, there's going to be some potential quality misses across the shopping cart. If you have a tee, a fleece, and another product, they're probably not going to all look the same, even coming off of the same DTG printer. So right away, you're like, what's up with that? Yeah. Right. And then add to that the fact of the majority of the shirts had kind of like bulk pre-treat rather than like spot pre-treat with just the print zone. And your instant as a consumer or somebody receiving that package, your instant reaction is, oh my gosh, there's like this rigidity to my shirt that's the pre-treatment zone. Now we know it washes out, but that first experience is everything. And so I think there was a lot of mistrust there and also misdelivery. So what I would encourage everybody listening is, as you think about accelerating trust of POD, I'd say think about how you can accelerate trust on how you deploy POD, because it's no longer just a commodity model where it's, hey, we're selling DTG t-shirts.
That's right.
It's the assortment of logo techniques, of products, of brands that I can approach high-end synthetic fabrics. You've mentioned Travis Matthew. We can go with, Under Armour. We can go with Adidas. Like, we can approach higher end pieces and craft a lot more value, and like take premium decoration techniques like direct to film can be, like emblems and patches and direct embroidery can be. And now we can think about, I think our friends over at Tag Swag coined this decorate on demand, right? Or brand on demand versus just print on demand, right? Because brand on demand means I can use different finishes, different techniques, including embroidery. And now I'm separating myself from the pack.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. By kind of training people to not just think POD equals DTG. No, actually it's a variety of decoration techniques, like those awesome PVC patches you were just showing. Like, that's print on demand. And in the past, no one really thinks of engraved patches or embroidery or any of these other decoration techniques being print on demand.
Yeah, and if you go on like Shopify Marketplace, whatever, and I'm not going to name them, but you can plug into any app that's POD, right? And when you search on YouTube for education on POD, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get this model that's like fast cash. I don't need a heat press. I can just do this, and I can make millions of dollars. Well, it does require some planning and some work. I'm sorry, it just does. All right, so we appreciate the feedback. We're glad we can answer your questions, and thanks for asking that. So we do have a question coming in. From MCSN Merchandise. It says, what's the profit margin? That's kind of like create your own journey, right? So you want to take a stab at that? Otherwise I can.
Yeah, I mean, right? Volume, speed, who's your customer? Are you selling as a contract decorator? Are you selling to B2C? Is it B2B? Right? There's a lot of factors that go into play in terms of what you can expect a profit margin be.
Yeah. And I think that, profit margin is always related to, of course, the cost of goods, but more the value you're creating for customer target and how much unique value you can create. And so, you should be expecting, at least 100% markup on many of these products that you're creating. And in most cases, it's much higher than that. But again, that kind of puts us into the discussion, which I wanted to get to anyways. Like, you can choose to do it yourself. You can choose to do none of it and outsource all of it, right? Or you can choose a hybrid model where I'm going to do some in-house and outsource. And profit margin may vary, but also cost structure, and opportunity cost and time is all going to vary. So talk a little bit as we wait on a couple more questions on like the benefits of a hybrid model, doing some in-house, outsourcing some. Like, most of the folks listening are decorators. We may have some only pure sellers, but most people are used to like putting their hands on the heat press or on the printer and doing some work. So talk about outsourcing and the value of a hybrid model, even for print on demand.
Yeah. Again, I can speak from experience on this, right? Like, I used to have a heat press in our kitchen right in front of the TV and would sit there and just press in front of watching basketball games and football games, right? That's how we got our start. And then we moved into a much larger building than our kitchen, all 2,000 square feet here in Charleston, South Carolina, right? We still have that building, right? And the question became, we actually started outpacing our own facility with the way we were able to sell. And it turns out, okay, you know what? We're really good at selling. Do we really want to grow our own facility, or do we want to just do like the high touch local stuff, specialized jobs, the things that, we just want to keep in house? But do we really want to turn customers away and say, no, I'm sorry, we're on a 3-week turnaround time? No, you lose that customer. That customer doesn't come back because they're going to think every time it's going to be a 3-week turnaround, right? So we wanted to keep that same awesome turnaround time that we had developed from day one, but we didn't want to stop selling, right? That's why we developed this model to begin with, and being able to now take this model and be able to deliver this to other people who are in the same shoes as we were then and still are, right? Like, that is a model that is, I'm really excited for people to be able to experience and tap into. So now, like, when you have that big order that would take up all of your machines, you're like, oh, this is an exciting order, but it's going to take up all of my production. What am I going to go tell my 100, 200 other clients? Like, sorry, I got to put all of your orders on the backlog because I'm working on this other big order. Like, no, be able to continue to do the same number of orders, keep your manufacturing output at a smooth spot, and then tap into the amazing decorator network that we've created with some awesome partners all around the US and the UK. Being able to then push into the system in a seamless way where you're not doing extra work and really getting to experience those contract rates, the quality, the turnaround time. All of it is something your own facility may not be able to output in that amount of time, is really what we've been able to create. And that's really in large part to such an amazing group of decorators that are on our platform that our system can route orders to.
Yeah. And then just to help everybody, because you might be like, some of these folks that follow Stahls closely may be like, what are you talking about? And so fulfill, just a little note on how Stahls in the Fulfill Engine acquisition is going. Fulfill Engine has a very powerful software that solves a lot of the challenges that decorators face, as we've talked about, right? And we want to be able to bring that model to everybody in the industry that's interested. And so where we're at right now with that is Fulfill Engine's been primarily for enterprise level volume accounts. We've taken the software and we've created it in a way that is accessible to a small to medium sized business. Okay. We are at the very end, towards the end, at our beta phase, because we want to make sure it's right before we onboard, hundreds or thousands of you all into it. And so over the next, I'll say 3 to 6 months, you'll be hearing about this new product offering from Stahls called Stahls Fulfill Engine that you can access in your business to help you power print on demand. And I'll say it as simple as that because it's kind of a modular software where you can use a lot of it or you can use part of it. And part of it, I think, will even have value to your business, because when we look at really printing on demand, we've been talking a lot about e-commerce stores, but there's also the aspect of just sending a customer in your community a quote and being able to take an order and produce it and get all the efficiencies on demand. And that's a part of it too, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I even see in the chat, Frank just teed one up perfectly for this conversation.
My guy, Frank. Thanks, Frank.
There we go. Can FE handle bulk screen printing orders now? Yes. So we are in beta for that as well. It's going really well. And it's kind of right what Josh was talking about. Maybe you have a couple single head embroidery machines, or you do embroidery, or you do engraving, and you have a couple heat presses, but you don't ever want to get into screen printing because, that's a whole nother animal in terms of decoration, right? I can guarantee you our little 2,000 square foot facility that we had, no room for a screen printing press in there. Plenty of room for other things, but no room for screen printing. And so that is what the system will allow, our partners and anyone using the software will now have these tools, like Josh is saying, like having that ability to create those quotes for the end client to update the quote, to update the number of units, to place orders themselves in a way that's really easy. Someone who isn't a screen printing expert being able to place orders, upload artwork, have our system let them know that this artwork is in good shape, and then have that order get routed to the closest decorator to the end customer who's receiving that. Well, now we're saving time on transit, we're saving money on shipping, and all of that's being passed on to the person running the software.
Yeah. And so for a small decorator, you guys can see I got my little cat press here. I used to have a heat press here. I moved it out because I do less heat pressing because I'm traveling too much for work. But small decorator operating in a spare bedroom, right? You may not be doing crazy volume, but man, when that customer comes in because of a relationship that you've built and they want a quote for 500 shirts, like you don't have to go chase down and try to figure it out. With the Fulfill Engine software, you can confidently say, yes, I can do it. You can create a quote for the 500 shirt bulk screen printing, upload a logo. And then if your customer says yes, their relationship is still with you, right? We just have contract printing services behind you that are Stahls certified that are going to print that for you and can either ship it to you or ship it to the customer on your behalf as if it came from you. And so think about that. Like one of my things is I've been going to trade shows in this industry for 2 decades now. And it like pains me when I see a small decorator with limited capital and even more limited time go into a show and walk out because they could get the financing with a screen printing press, a single head embroidery machine, a bunch of heat presses, a direct garment printer, a dye sublimation printer. Some of you may fit that profile, but usually it's like, how are you going to learn all that? Why do you need to own all that? And so this is a great way not only to be able to increase your capacity and technology you do, but also increase your capability with decoration methods that you don't have to have in-house, but now you can offer and trust to be able to grow your business. Yeah, so I love this question. We always get this question. Will this be available in Canada? So I know it's not like out of the gate a yes, Jayson, but like there's a whole ecosystem that makes this thing work. in the U.S. market, and we're working on that ecosystem for Canada. So do you want to kind of give a high level on like what that means?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the answer is yes, right? And the answer is yes for the UK. The answer is yes for Europe. The answer is yes for all these different countries and areas. Okay. So I want to get that out of the way. The key of what makes Fulfill Engine so special is what Josh is kind of alluding to, is the way it connects everything that's needed to do the production. And that includes those suppliers, right? Suppliers are a key part of the ecosystem of us being able to do fulfillment, and for anyone running the software ability to do fulfillment. Yes, it already has an inventory management system if you want to source your own blanks. But part of what we want to do is connect with those suppliers in Canada to make that same amazing workflow that we have here for our US-based customers. And that means integrating with, S&S Canada, Sanmar Canada, right? Same thing in the UK, Ralwise, Pencarry. Like, these are going to be really important integrations and partnerships. And that is something that our team is already working on and having amazing conversations with those suppliers. And then hooking up and learning all about Canadian shipping, learning all about Royal Mail in UK, and learning about every single nuance, different area around the way we do shipping rates, because our system takes care of that for you. You don't ever have to worry about going like, oh, is it going to be better with USPS or is it better with UPS? We allow you in the system to set up all your rules. And then if you want, our software will take care of that in terms of figuring out what's the lowest rate, what's the best carrier. It does it all for you, right? Why on earth would you want to spend the time doing that yourself when you can let software do it?
Yeah, that's great. And we've already answered the question, I think, after she had asked it, but Marie asked, will it be available in the UK? And we said, yes.
I had not even seen that one yet.
Says, that's great. And happy Friday, Master Screen Prints. I know we're running a little long. We like to keep this thing to about 30, 40 minutes, and that's okay. We did share a link out for those who are watching live. For those who may be listening, I'll verbally state the link slow for you. It's Stahls.com, which is STAHLS.com. And then you want to do /fulfill, FULFILL-engine, right? Or just search Fulfill Engine on Stahls.com. You can find all the details around this, watch a cool video of it in action in a shop. And Dave says, go, go, go. I'm loving this conversation. And we're going to keep going. But out of respect to everybody that expected a 40-minute show, we're going to give you an option to out right now, but we're going to keep going and taking questions for another 10 to 15. And we have another question coming in from Rachel. Are you going to be integrated with Etsy? So we don't want to give away too much of our roadmap, but I will say that sales platforms like Etsy and Amazon are an important order acquisition source, just like Shopify sites, just like white label stores, whether that's our white label store or another one. Like, our goal is to power your business to do print on demand efficiently on anywhere an apparel decorator wants to sell. Now, of course, those things have to happen at some sequence. We can't do it all at once, but yeah, we want to power business models across all eligible sales platforms. All right, another good question. Recommendation for connecting systems. Do you have a preference on tech stack? So talk a little bit about tech stack, Jayson.
Yeah, so Josh also mentioned this earlier. Our system is very modular, right? And so what we have seen of working with other large enterprise decorators in the past, and we still experience this today, is that a lot of people say, oh, I already have X, like I already have a store solution, or I already, have my own QR code or barcode scan to print system, or I have my own inventory management system, right? I don't want this. I don't want this part of Fulfill Engine. We do have a very robust API that allows order acquisition to come in from any types of different channels. So if you have your own store platform, or you're working through, even something like Shopify, we have an integration to Shopify. We're very much all about partnership, and that's how we've been since day one. Like, we want to be able to connect. We don't want to tell you how to run your business. We want to give you all the tools to be able to run it in an optimized way, but still let you make the decision at the end of the day. And so when it comes to tech stack, we really do rely on our APIs. And that's kind of how Fulfill Engine was really made, was from our partners saying, you know what, I want to connect with this system. Okay, don't just take our API and go hire some third-party software company to go do that. You know what, we'll build that for you, because every time we added a new integration, every time we added a new supplier integration, whatever new functionality we were adding on behalf of our partner guess what? The system's getting better and better. And that's what really has driven our success since day one, is being so collaborative with our partners. Having our partners work together, in a collaborative way really drives what we work on and how really the software was built.
Great answer. Hopefully, if there's any follow-up to that, feel free to chat it back to us as well. I want to hit one question while we're waiting on any final questions to come in. Like, one of the things is like market observations and opportunities. Of course, there's the observation around print technology, alleviating administrative tasks to be able to power this, moving to virtual inventory. But you can't go anywhere without hearing about AI now, and in many different contexts. How do you think about AI when it comes to print on demand? What areas should we be looking to leverage AI, or at least explore AI?
It's really fun, right? It's a really fun topic, because we're going to do this recording, right? It's going to go on YouTube, and in like 3 months, if we did this call again, I'd probably have a whole new set of stuff I'd be talking about. You say
it's going to be irrelevant? Your answer is going to be irrelevant in 3 months, you think?
I don't want to go that far. More okay. So like, let's check in 6 months and see how accurate I was. How about that?
All right. I like that.
And so if I had to say what are the trends I'm seeing, first off, everyone, this isn't new information today on 4/19/2024. Okay. Everyone's using AI to generate artwork, right? And like a year ago, it was nightmare fuel. Today it's incredible, right? And it's getting better and better and better, right? And it's only going to keep getting better. And so seeing the way artwork can be automated, not just on the initial creation of it, but like the way we clean up artwork, the way we create mock-ups, right? Like our system already can create mock-ups, but is it using AI today? Not yet, right? Will it? Probably, right? Like how cool would it be to put in prompts to say, you know what, I want a basketball player with this jersey and this artwork, and then it pops it out. Like that's going to help your conversions when you're selling, having like cool, different, unique mock-ups. So I see that as a way. Another win, I think that's going to happen in the next year. I think AI, there's going to be someone, I don't know who's going to pull it off, but someone's going to pull off the ability to take a rasterized image. And when I say rasterized, I mean like a PNG, a JPEG, something that's flat, and essentially take that image and take it all the way through really every type of setup, whether that's screen separation, like why have a human do that? Or it's digitization, right? Getting it to rasterize to an actual embroidered file type, right? And I think that's going to happen this year. So 6 months, someone's going to come up with it. Wow.
I'm pretty sure the biggest prediction you just made is none of us are going to get spammed from all those digitizers, because AI is going to replace it. Is that what just happened?
Yes.
Now we'll just get spammed by all the DTF transfer suppliers, yeah?
That's exactly right. It's so true. So true. I think that's a big one. Yeah. And then lastly, one I'm really excited about, and I've had in the back of my head for a couple of weeks now. I was talking to, I don't remember who the conversation with, so I apologize out there if I didn't give you credit for this, but I had a conversation with someone that I could see in the very near future using AI to build entire stores, company stores, e-commerce stores, where I say, you know what? I want a construction store with this logo, and the construction company, their brand colors are these hex codes or these colors. And I snap my finger and the entire store is built, right? Why not? AI can power things like this.
Yeah. I don't know if you talked to somebody else, but we had that conversation.
Well, I guess it was you. It was you. I talked to a lot of people.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I think that when you look at like one of the most task-driven thing that people complain about is the time it takes to set up a store. So I mean, that would be exciting. And again, I hope any platform comes up with it and we can integrate with it.
Yeah.
Like that's the key. Like let's
absolutely
raise the power of the whole community and share these ideas.
That's right. Yeah. Not a single one of those ideas did I say, hey, Stahls Fill Engine is going to be the one who builds this, and we're going to be the one who controls the technology. You could not be more spot on. Like we want to continue to collaborate, and we don't want to ever reinvent the wheel. We want to innovate all together, right?
Yeah, and I love it. Danielle says your concepts will be evolved in 6 months, not irrelevant, as I had stated aloud. And then we take all the questions, so don't worry. Keep questions coming. We just get to them as we can. So how to print on spandex polyester material, direct-to-film transfers can handle that. If you have one that is made with the powder to be able to stretch in the ink. And so the Stahls Ultracolor Max Transfer certainly would work on that. If you're printing your own or sourcing somewhere else, you're going to have to ask wherever you source it from. But I love direct film. Actually, we just used our direct to film on the Noble NFL Combine gear, which was compression spandex-like material. So it's really good for that use. So yeah, just stay patient with us. We will answer your question. Just ask it. All right. Yeah, and Dave says automated product setup would even be great. And whole store would be real rad. I love the way Dave talks. He gets so excited about stuff. That's Dave from our team. So good. So we're coming up on conclusion. We did about 10 minutes of bonus time. Jason, I've been asking you all the questions. Any final thoughts or questions for me as we wrap it up for all of our listeners today?
Yeah, how are the Celtics going to do in the playoffs this year? Since we're doing 6 months out, we're doing predictions.
Yeah. So I think what Vegas would say is the Celtics will be NBA champions this year. So for those watching, I'll give you a little piece of my history. Two things right here. So I'm a big Celtics fan for those not watching. So what I'm holding up now is a piece of the Boston Garden parquet floor from one of the greatest eras of all time. And then I was lucky enough to attend the 2022 NBA Finals. Unfortunately, the game I went to, they lost to Golden State. Luckily, Steph Curry is officially out of the playoffs, so I feel good about Boston's chance. 206 Fresh City. Let's go. Pittsburgh doesn't have a team yet, but I got sent a survey about a potential WNBA and NBA Pittsburgh expansion team, and so they're looking at it and see if the area can support it. I think that'd be pretty freaking awesome.
That's excellent.
Tell everybody your team and who you actually think is the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really up for debate. It's LeBron James and the Lakers. I know it can be a polarizing subject, but other people make it polarizing, not me. I just go off of the numbers and the facts.
Yeah, and then Frank, I'm going to flash his question just so you guys know I'm a normal person too. Last question, Josh, what shoes are you wearing? Actually, I'm not wearing any right now. I'm in my home office, but I'm a shoe guy, so I'll definitely be throwing some on as I move out. But Jason, hey, thanks so much for joining. We continue to be excited about what Fulfill Engine is going to bring to the industry. You're able to share a little bit of that today. Hopefully everybody sees that they can participate in this in some way. And the reason we've done this is to help apparel decorators to really grow their business. So yes, this will be recorded and available for replay everywhere it was broadcasted. So if you missed the beginning, go back, watch it. Thanks for listening to Heat Press for Profit podcast, and join us again next week.